Hello everybody, my name is Andrada Olteanu and I'm a proud data scientist in Endava. And today I am going to be talking to you about my favorite subject in the whole world, which is data visualization. So people are extremely visual, meaning that we like to see color, patterns, and things moving that we can interact with them. Hence, the information that they are trying to provide to us sinks much deeper than just by reading plain text, for example. And today in this presentation, I'm going to hopefully show you how you can integrate that within data science and data visualization, and how to elevate your graphs in order to make them much more interactive and intriguing to the user. So let's get started. First, I would like to draw a baseline from where we are going. So myself as a data scientist, in the past years, I have been using a handful of tools in order to create my visualizations. First, I learned how to use Excel, which is the basic of the basics. You don't really need much knowledge about it, and it's very simple and very straightforward. Then I started using Matplotlib. This is when I also started to learn Python and the libraries within it. So this was the first visualization library I learned within Python and data science. Then it's Seaborn, which is the big brother of Matplotlib, if you want. Seaborn helps elevate the graphs that are already created in Matplotlib, add them color, interactivity, and they are very nice in general. And then if you want to get a little bit further, you can use Plotly. This is where you want to kind of dress to impress, but the code in general is a little bit more hard to be done. Now let's see a proper example of a chart that was created using some of these tools. So I hope you like music and songs in general, because we are going to go down through a music lane together today. So this is a bar chart, a very simple bar chart that shows the frequency of registered bird songs throughout the years. So in 1 year, there were a number of bird songs that were registered from multiple species of birds around the globe. And this is the bar chart. It's extremely simple, and it's been done in Excel. So it's very straight to the point. You can understand the information. However, if you want to add a little bit more customization, it's going to be a little bit more complicated, and you don't have much room with it. Hence, I'm going to try using Matplotlib instead. So moving to Python and Matplotlib, in just 2 lines of code, very straightforward, I am creating the same bar chart. Now, this bar chart needs a little bit of work. For example, on the x-axis, as you may see, the years are kind of overlapping one to each other, and we need to fix that. Then we might want to enhance the x and y axis and maybe change the color of the bars to make them more interesting. And very quickly and easily, in 2 more lines of code, we can do that. And now the bar chart is accurate. To add a little bit more information about it, we can also add very quickly a title or a title for the x and y axis. And now, by looking at it, you could say the bar chart is done. It provides all the information that you need to know. However, if you are a little bit extra and you want to add a little bit of something, I usually like to do that. So in this case, I Googled a little bit and I found this beautiful watercolor bird that also matches the color scheme of the bars, and I added that to the graph. So now we have also a representative image that kind of shows what's about the bar chart, and everything is very seamless and integrated. And now this bar chart is complete. You can show it to your coworkers, your spouse, your child, it doesn't matter. Everybody and anybody could understand the information behind it. But what can you do when you want to take it a step further? And this has been my question in the past year. So I'm going to take you with a story time. So I have been a data scientist for 2 years. And data visualization has been the thing I've been most passionate about. And I have tried and mastered all these tools that I have been talking to you about. But at some point, I kind of hit a point where I couldn't improve anymore my graphs. So I started wondering, what can I make and what can I use to make my graphs even better? What can I use to make them more fun? How can I add more complexity to them? How can I make them react and interact with the user? How can I make them as customizable as possible? How can I make them unique and atypical? And lastly, how can I make them shareable and as user-friendly as possible? And I started digging and looking. And this year in January, I won the 3rd place in a Kaggle competition. So naturally, I started looking at what other people did. And the notebook that won the 2nd place had these amazing, beautiful visualizations, the most amazing things I have ever seen, ever. And the guy that did them used D3. Okay, so I'm going to be very real with you. At first, I panicked. And I panicked because I was looking at the code and I couldn't understand anything, because in my data science life, I've never seen something like that ever before. And on one hand, I was like amazed. These visualizations are so beautiful. But on the other hand, I was like terrified of the technicalities of the code. So I panicked and I ran away very quickly and then came back a few months later, which was a mistake. And this presentation is hopefully going to show you that you don't have to repeat that same mistake that I did. D3 is not a dragon that cannot be slayed. It's actually, although it might not seem, very accessible. And beyond that point, it's really worth the effort, because the things that you can create using D3 are much more extraordinary than the kind of leap that you need to take at the beginning. So let me show you what I mean. First, let's talk a little bit about what is D3. So very plainly put, D3 is a library for data manipulation that uses JavaScript. And this is where everything kind of broke for me, because I've been talking to many data scientists, and apparently not many, almost none of them, knew JavaScript. As data scientists usually use Python or R and never JavaScript. So this looked a little bit complicated to me. However, as I'm going to show you, it's nothing to worry about. So now I want to show you the official page of D3 and maybe look a little bit into it and how to navigate through it. So D3 was created by Mike Bostock. He is the father of D3. And this is the official page. And you're going to find some very interesting tools here. So first of all, this is the cover of the page, which is amazing in my opinion. And you can see here different examples of charts that were created by the community in D3. So for example, I don't know, let's look at this one and maybe look at this one, and let's see another one too. And you can come here and see the code and also some very beautiful visualizations that can be done. It's extremely versatile. You can do really anything with D3, and you can create anywhere on any platform as much as you want. So here are some cute examples to kind of get you going. Besides that, you can click here onto examples. And in here, you can see, are going to come to observable. I'm going to talk a bit about observable in a second. But here is a very useful page where you can, for example, let's say you want to build a chloropleth of the US map. You can come in here, click on it, and then you can use the code created especially for this baseline chart, and then you can start building on it. So the gallery is extremely, extremely useful. A few more things here. So here is the documentation if you want to get a little bit more in depth using in the GitHub page. And then lastly, what I want to highlight is this line of code here. So this line of code is used in order to be able to access the D3 library. So exactly like you'd say in Python, import pandas or import sklearn and stuff like that, you can also click and copy this line of code, and you're going to have access to the D3 functions. This one uses the latest version, which is version 7. However, if you want to use earlier versions like 6 or 5, is totally fine. You can just change that number there and you're good to go. Before going any further, I would like to take a moment to talk just a very little tiny bit about technicalities. I don't want to bore you to death, but when I first saw the multitude of things that you can create with D3, I was like, but how? how could you do that? So there are a few things that you need to know, starting with D3. First of all, you'll need to have some basic knowledge of HTML. Not a lot, though, but D3 creates graphs in a web page. So you need to create that skeleton web page with HTML. It's just a few lines of code, nothing more, and once you have that skeleton in place, you don't really have to know much about it. So very basic HTML knowledge. Then you might need to know CSS. CSS is extremely helpful because you want to customize your charts and your visualization. And to do that, you need CSS. But you don't have to know it by heart, just because there is a lot of documentation out there about CSS, and many people that already have done that what you might need. So you can go ahead and just copy those people and, of course, reference them. And then you will need JavaScript. So in JavaScript, you will do the bulk of work, the magic behind D3. However, you don't have to know a lot of JavaScript, just the JavaScript that you will need for D3 itself. So you don't have to learn a completely new programming language. This is what I thought I had to at the beginning, but it's not the case, because you can do the pre-processing and preparing the data in Python or R or whatever language you're comfortable with, and then go into the JavaScript part and D3 part once you have everything in place and just create the visualization there. So very basic knowledge, intermediate knowledge on JavaScript. Besides that, you will need an environment. So in this case, I used Visual Studio. You can go ahead and install it. It's very simple. But if you want to use something on the internet, you can use Observable. So Observable is a notebook sharing scheme created and designed especially for D3. So in there, you can code much easier, you can access libraries much more easier, and then you can create a visualization, and it's a very useful and much quicker, let's say, because you can also fork other people's work. I'm going to get to that in a second. And lastly, what I've thrown in here is because, or at least I feel like I haven't found many resources on courses on D3. And this is a course I have done. If you want, it's not necessarily, but you can check out this course. It's Mastering Data Visualization in D3 on Udemy. It's very well structured. It's starting from setting up the environment and installing everything to creating some basic shapes, then creating the actual chart, and then going even further with the D3 magic and creating the absolute amazingness that you're going to see in a second. So I highly recommend that course. Okay, so let's stop talking for a little bit and see what D3 is all about. So this one is an example, a very interesting example. I have left the link in the presentation, and I'm going to open it right here. So this is a notebook created by Bartosz. I think I'm pronouncing his name right. And if you're already familiar with Jupyter Notebooks, it's exactly the same. So you have a markdown file where you can, for example, here have some text. if you click here and then you press pin down, you can see the text, and this is the header, and then again some more text. And then here is the chart that I am going to show you. There are many more charts, and you can do multiple charts in one notebook. Nobody says you can't. But this is the thing I wanted to show you. So right from the start, you already notice that something is different than from what we've already seen in Matplotlib, Seaborn, and so on. You don't see the chart. So there is a playfulness here because we have a start button. So this chart will show the lifespans of 41 songs after they reached the top of Spotify charts. So how long has the hit stayed within the top charts on Spotify? So I'm going to play start. And you can see these shapes, like these spirals, folding as the songs appear. And then here is the number of days they stay within the tops. Once they go gray, it means that they dropped down after a few days. And you can see they are unfolding very, very, very nicely and beautifully. And afterwards, at the end, as the chart kind of stops, you have here a very cool button that says transform into a bar chart. And you can click here and very seamlessly, I adore this. So very seamlessly, everything kind of reorders into this very, very, very clean bar charts where you can show, let's say, much more, where you can see much more in depth the comparisons between the songs. What I also like about this is that, for example, if you're scrolling and I don't know, Calvin Harris, One Kiss, maybe I don't know this song, you can click on it and it opens a separate browser when you of the song within Spotify. So you can actually listen to it. And you can do this with all the songs. Like, in my opinion, this is very, very cool. And then you can also go back to that radial chart format, which is, again, in my opinion, a very interesting shape in itself. Now, if you want to see how Bartosz did it, you can, again, pin down and you have access to the entire code that he used to create this chart. So nothing is left with a question mark. If you scroll down, you're going to see multiple charts and you can explore that later. I highly recommend it. It's absolutely incredible. And for each chart, again, you're going to pin down and then you're going to see all the code. The last thing I want to show you here is that if you go into the appendix section, right at the bottom, you see here data. And here you can see the structure of the data that was inputted, and you're going to find out that it's just a simple CSV file. So it's just a simple CSV file with a few columns named artist, name, when it premiered, first appearance, week, streams, and so on. The cool thing about this is that if we pin down, you can see that we can change the CSV file. So for example, if you have another CSV file, maybe from a different period in time, with the exact same structure, and you append it in this notebook, and then you might need to do a few little tweakments, but very small, you can end up with the exact same graph without having to start from zero. And this, in my opinion, is the power of the community within D3. So after I saw what you can be able to do in D3, I was like, I don't know if I can happily and peacefully go back to what I've been using so far. So I want to share with you the 4 reasons, in my opinion, D3 is absolutely incredible. And if you want to master data visualization, you should try it at least. So first of all, you aren't restricted anymore to just the basic format of the charts. Bar charts, pie charts, box plots. You can do unique shapes like we've seen with the radial chart, or whatever shapes that you want to create much more easily. So your imagination can roam freely without having to doubt about anything, because you can do anything really. You can build upon someone else's work. So again, you don't have to start from zero. You can use observable and other people's work in order to create something unique and your own. But again, I'm just going to put it out there. Reference, please, everybody and all your resources. Interactivity encourages play. Because the graphs are playful and move, it encourages the user to find out and discover more about it. In that process, they also understand more about the information behind it. And in my opinion, that's the most important. That you need to give them time and curiosity in order to find out deeper meanings and information behind the visualization and the chart. And lastly, my favorite, I think, endless possibilities to make it unique. Meaning that with CSS, you can do whatever you want. For example, if it's Christmas and let's say you want to do a bar chart, and instead of bars, you want to put candy. And whenever you hover your mouse over the candy, you want them to spin. And then snow is falling from the sky. And then you have maybe Santa playing in the back a carol or something. You can do it. You can do anything you want. And this is the most exciting part about E3, in my opinion. Okay, so the last part of this presentation, I would like to show you a concrete example of how you can build a D3 chart on your own. Because I've shown you many things and many possibilities, but I usually, within a presentation, if I find something new, I would like to also know, just to have a little bit of an idea at least, on the how aspect. How are we going to create these charts? So we are going to go back to the board chart we've done before. I hope you didn't forget about it. So we are going to try to recreate that board chart and add something extra. So first of all, we want to create the X and Y axis in D3. D3 works exactly like all the visualizations that you might have used before, meaning that we are going to build as we go. So first, we are going to do the axis. In this case, I'm going to do the x-axis, which is a scale band. A scale band means that the x-axis is categorical. We have years, but these are categorical variables. Whereas on the y-axis, I'm going to have a scale linear, meaning frequencies. So we have frequencies on the y-axis, meaning these are numbers. So I want them to be linear. And then I want to group them. Transform translate means that I'm going to kind of put them wherever I want in the area. And then I'm going to call for x-axis, axis bottom, meaning I want it to be the bottom axis. And then y, I want to be on the left. And here, I'm also doing a little bit of tweaking, and I'm saying, okay, select all my text and rotate it 50 degrees in order for the ears to not overlap and be clean and be seen very, very easily and correctly. Afterwards, we need to append the rectangle. So what is really a bar chart? A bar chart is rectangle that has the length of the y-axis, the frequency, for each x variable in time, which is kind of the width. So in this case, I'm creating a variable called rectangles. And then I'm saying dot data, meaning in D3 language, dot data is when you say for all observations within the data set, do the following. So for each observation here, it works like a for loop almost. I want to append the rectangle. I want to position it where I want to be transformed. And then I want the y, so the length of the rectangle, to be my frequency, and then the x to be assigned to the ear I am talking about. And then Rx and Ry are two little very interesting attributes I found out, where you can kind of round. The bars not be so squared shape, which is an effect I personally like. And then I applied a fill color, meaning I made the bars a light sky blue color. In order to make it almost exactly how it looked when we left it the last time, I needed to do a little few more things. So first of all, I added a title here, and then a title for the y-axis here. And this is very easy. You append some text to the area of the chart. You mention the coordinates where you want it to be placed. And then some few little attributes, for example, the size of the text, the font weight if you want to make it more bolder or simpler. And also you say what text you want to be put in there. And for the Y label is exactly the same, but I rotated it 90 degrees to be on the vertical axis on the Y. So everything looks perfect. I also added off camera the bird image. And here I also added a gradient. So in this case, I didn't want them to be blue all over, but I said, okay, the base color here on the bottom should be blue. And then I want on the top to fade into a pinkish reddish color. So it forms this very beautiful gradient, which is done in a few lines of code. Very, very simple, very, very beautiful. So we are left with the bar chart that we have created before. So what can I do in D3 very quickly and easily to add a little bit of something more? And I'm going to show you something very interesting. So in this case, what I did is I added some interactivity to the chart. And I'm going to pause a little bit and explain what I have done here. So whenever I am moving the cursor, my mouse, over a particular bar, I want some things to happen. So in this case, when I mouse enter into my rectangle, I want a few things. First of all, I want the user to be able to clearly see that they are on some bar. So I want the bar to be very different from the others. Hence, what I did is I decreased the opacity to 30% in here. And then I increased a little bit the width and the height of the bar to make it a little bit more bigger than the rest of them. This is the first thing I did. Then the second thing is I added a line, because by looking with your naked eye, you can't really see where the frequency, where the value on the y-axis lies. So by adding a line, it's much easier for the user to notice and compare. So I added a line on top of each bar once you have placed your mouse over it. And then the last thing I did is, so usually in a Matplotlib bar chart, you would add the values on the bars on top of them. But this would make the bar chart a bit overcrowded. So what I did here is I added a label. So I added a label in this area of my code where I say next to the cursor, the mouse, the pointer, I want to show a label that shows the exact frequency number of how many songs were registered in that year. So all these interactivities that I have added are elevating the bar chart. So we've moved from a very simple, quick, and easy bar chart in Excel to an intermediate version in Matplotlib to a much more interactive, playful bar chart in D3. And in my opinion, in my humble opinion, the D3 bar chart has all the attributes. It checks all the characteristics or criteria, if you may, that the chart or data visualization needs to have. It has playfulness, it has interactivity, it is beautiful. In my opinion, this is a criteria. And lastly, it makes the user have two feelings. So first of all, it gives them clarity because, okay, I understand the information that the chart is trying to provide me. But it also gives them curiosity, the curiosity of exploring, of trying to maybe move around and find more complexity and what other features are added within the graph, and also curiosity that stays behind the data. What's happening in this year, or why is the trend going this way? So, concluding, I feel like D3 is the most amazing tool that you can use to create your data visualization. And hopefully I got you even just a little bit excited to explore and understand it. And I would like to thank you so much for listening, and have a great, wonderful day and the rest of the conference. Thank you so much. Thank you.